After the unexpected victory of the Blue Lock team over Japan's U-20 team, the whole of Japan, and even the world, finally recognized the Blue Lock project, and the journey of this team is about to begin. But unfortunately, the season ended at this exciting moment, leaving us hanging at the peak of our excitement. That's why I decided to continue the events of Blue Lock beyond the anime for you. Ready? Let's begin. Henri returned the players' belongings to them, and this was the first time they were allowed to leave the facility. Since their arrival, leaving had meant exclusion, but now they were granted a full 2-week vacation. Isagi went home, changed his clothes, and decided to go out. His mother asked, "Where are you going? You just got back." He replied that he wanted to enjoy himself a little with his friends. The scene shifts to Shibuya, where Bachira and Hayoma were waiting for Isagi, and he finally arrived. They had a casual conversation like any normal friend. How are you? What's new? Then Isagi asked, will anyone else be joining us, or is it just the 3 of us? They answered that most of their close friends lived outside Tokyo and couldn't come, then asked him, and you, Isagi, did you contact anyone? He said he had sent a message to Nagi, but Nagi told him he had just woken up and would be late. Isagi was very happy about this vacation. Finally, they could sleep comfortably, go out freely, and do whatever they wanted without fearing what tomorrow might bring. Hayoma shared the same feeling, saying, it's like we were locked in a cell. Bachira then asked, so what should we do today? It turned out none of them had a specific plan. Hayoma then noticed a news article about them and their achievement against the Japan national team, saying, we've become famous stars. Isagi and Bachira were surprised since they didn't follow the news and didn't know what was happening outside the facility. Hayoma explained that because Itoshi Sei had participated in that match, many people were interested, and their victory spread widely, impressing everyone, especially after Ego announced his intention to create the world's greatest striker, which elevated the status of Blue Lock. Even the university dean declared his full support for the project in front of the media, giving it more official recognition. Bachira said, that fat guy just wants to steal the achievement and claim it for himself. But Isagi was only thinking about the new level they had reached and how people now recognize their talent. Yoma agreed with him. On the other side of the street, another group of Blue Lock players appeared. Isagi and the others noticed them, and they were Reo, Karasu, Yoshi, Ryu, Otoya, and finally Yukimiya. Bachira foolishly walked up to them and they asked, what are you doing here? Isagi replied, we gathered to have some fun. You guys? Ryo answered, we were discussing business and trade matters. Isagi realized that football was bigger than just a sport, something he had never thought about before. Otoya said, don't lump me with them, I'm only here for the Shibuya girls. Bachira suggested they spend the rest of the day together, and everyone agreed. Then Ryo asked, where's Nagi? I thought he was with you. Isagi replied, he said he'd be late. A new message arrived, this time saying he'd be even later because he found a game center on the way, which angered Isagi. Bachira said, what if we surprise him and attack him? The game Nagi was playing had already seen him win 16 rounds in a row, and he didn't care whether it was fun or not. What mattered was the ranking inside. Suddenly they heard a familiar voice behind them. They found him, and they decided to play there too. Otoya was an expert at these games and won on the first try. Yukimiya was skilled at darts, and Bachira and the rest decided to punish Nagi this way. Ryu was a billiards pro. Then they tried ping pong, and Nagi was literally terrible at everything. Ryo suggested going to a karaoke hall. They walked down a long corridor filled with many rooms, and at the end, they found 2 girls fighting with a boy who wanted to date them both. He tried to explain himself, but they slapped him and left. Bachira and Isagi were shocked, while Ryo said, it's none of our business, let's keep going. Suddenly, Isagi saw a familiar person, the traitor, Japan defender Ikki. He asked them, hey guys, what's up? They mocked him, and Bachira said, how do you call yourself a defender when you couldn't even protect yourself against them? He laughed and said, looks like you saw all the details. Then he asked, are you guys on vacation too? My whole team is here. Isagi was surprised, and Ikki took them to another room where all the national team players were enjoying themselves. When they saw them, they were annoyed, still not having accepted their loss in the last match. Kuresu and the others arrived, and Kazuma shouted, do you want to fight, you trash? Ikki intervened to calm things down and suggested, what if we bet? The losers pay for dinner. He chose the game, bowling. They began choosing nicknames for the scoreboard. By coincidence, Baru was there playing alone, and with one strike, he knocked all the pins down. Everyone gathered around him excitedly. quickly. If he joined them, victory would be certain. But Baru was annoyed and asked, "What are you doing here in my arena?" Nagi picked up one of the balls and said, "If you've got your own balls." Baru snapped, "Don't touch them with your filthy hands." But Nagi wasn't the only one. Everyone else picked them up and laughed, while Baru fumed, wishing he could kill them. The competition began, and the score was still tied. This was Japan's last shot. It was Darai's turn, and everyone was counting on him, with the team's honor hanging on this throw. He calmed himself, focused all his attention on the target, then hurled the ball with all his strength. It sped forward in a straight line. Everyone's nerves were taut as they followed its path with their eyes, and he succeeded in knocking down all the pins. This increased the pressure on Isagi's team, especially since the final throw would be up to the failure Nagi. But this time, he seemed serious, at the peak of focus. He prepared to throw, and then the unexpected happened. He stumbled, fell flat on his face, and accidentally released the ball. Everyone was stunned. The ball rolled forward extremely slowly, and to their shock, it toppled all the pins. It was like a miracle, and Nagi made his team rejoice. Their loud cheers drew the attention of a group of girls nearby, who recognized them since the Blue Lock team had become famous throughout Japan, especially those who had played in the last match. Igo said, "Let's play another round." Isagi apologized, saying, "I have an important appointment with another friend." He picked up his bag and said, "See you later, guys." He headed to the train station, stood waiting for it, and when he heard someone calling him, it was a family, a father, mother, and son. They asked him, "You're Isagi, aren't you?" He replied, "Yes." They said they had watched his last match, and their son had become a fan. The boy said, "I loved your last goal. It was amazing. Can I shake your hand?" Isagi kindly replied, "Of course." The parents thanked him for his humility, and the excited boy said, "I'll do my best to become like you." Isagi boarded the train, thanked them for their kind words, and while alone he reflected on how the world around him had changed since joining Blue Lock. Then he said to himself, "It's not the world that changed, but I who changed it because I gained a true purpose." In this place he met Tada, his schoolmate, the player who missed the ball in the first episode, which made Isagi cry back then. Tada was surprised that Isagi still remembered his name, but Isagi confirmed, "Of course I remember. You're my friend, and I remember that goal you missed that cost us qualification." Tada, embarrassed, said, "Man, you were crazy in that match. You've become the hero of Japanese soccer." Isagi replied, "Don't exaggerate. What I did was nothing big." Tada responded, "Life is full of surprises, Isagi. We used to play together on the same team, and now you're a star." Then he asked for an autograph to show off to his friends. Isagi laughed, "You won't trick me again? I know you're teasing me." Then he asked, "How's the high school team doing? Any progress?" Tada answered, "Our goal is still the same. We want to reach the national championship." Isagi said, "Your passion brings back memories of the last tournament." Tada added, "Your spot in the team is still open. You can return anytime you want." Isagi thanked him for the invitation and added, "I still can't believe what happened. I was lucky to score that goal in the final minute. It was unreal. An incredible goal." Isagi was surprised and asked, "What do you mean?" Tada replied, "I mean that last ball. You know, it just fell in front of you by pure chance." Isagi was baffled by his words, but held back his anger because Tada spoke innocently, his simple mind unable to grasp what truly happened in that moment. Tada said, "Man, if I were in Blue Lock, I'd be a hero like you. But Isagi, maybe you've used up all your luck on that goal." He laughed and said, "Maybe you're right," while thinking to himself, "If only you knew what I went through, you wouldn't say that." When it was time to part, Tada said, "Message me anytime, Isagi, don't forget." Isagi bid him farewell, thinking, "I don't blame you for your words, Tada. If I were in your place, I'd say the same thing." He looked around and said to himself, "I didn't realize this until I met Tada. Blue Lock has changed me so much." Back at the facility, Igo appeared speaking to a group of international investors. Their only goal was profit, and they were worried about the project failing. Igo assured them that the second phase of his plans would be far stronger than the first. Everything that had happened since the beginning was only preparation and groundwork for this stage. He told them that the Blue Lock project was no longer confined to Japan, but that the whole world was now following it, awaiting the final product, the greatest striker in the world of soccer. Here we will stop for today. Thank you for watching.